Right, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all the geeks out there and Untitled Geekdom, and welcome to another. I was gonna say geek inspired podcast, and it's not. It's our little geekdom. I apologize. You see, I always do this. This is episode number 48. Number 48. See, we are bringing on someone, an indie developer, someone who's just started developing. Actually taught himself how to develop as well, which is very impressive. Kavi Bowerman, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
That's awesome. Right, so Kavi Bowerman has actually, I'm just going to call you Kavi rather. I'm not going to go name and surname the whole time. That's just silly. You were you created the company Vermanaware, right?
Yeah.
And that is obviously your flagship name for the company. Am I correct?
Yeah, for anything that I do that's programming or video games, it's all done through Vermanaware.
Okay, and how long has Vermanaware been going for?
2 years.
2 years.
Before that, I was in game development or working to make a game, but it was a board game, not a video game.
Okay.
So I started Vermanaware in 2020 when I started programming the game.
Okay.
The video game version of
the video game version, yeah. That's something obviously not a lot of the people know. The game actually is a board game first. The game is actually called Whiskey Bravo. Didn't even mention that. The game's called Whiskey Bravo. I've had a jam of it myself, just the demo version that Kavi has on.
I did as well, and it's a lot of fun. For me, it's a bit confusing, like I said to you last time, because there's no instructions and stuff. But I watched Ziff play it, and it does look like a lot of fun. It's definitely something I will play as well.
Yeah, so myself, I played a little bit of it, got into it, trying to figure out how to actually use it. And from what we've spoken about, it's sort of a Warhammer-ish kind of game, if I'm correct.
Sure. Yeah, I think if you're familiar with some of the video games like Fire Emblem or sorry, I'm it's early for me. I haven't even had any tea yet.
Sorry.
But yeah, games like Fire Emblem or Advance Wars, or even earlier than that, I was really into a game on TurboGrafx 16 that was very similar to that. And of course, Warhammer. Those are the two biggest influences on the game. And even dice playing rules and playing Dungeons and Dragons. So any game that uses sort of dice as a battle system has sort of been an influence on the game.
And I believe that the board game itself has actually got like a literal board and components to it as well.
I can show here if it shows. There's actual boards for the board game. So this is one of the maps. Really the first one released. And it looks just like what you'd see in the demo or the Steam page. Because the idea is the game, you can play it as a board game or as a video game, and it'd be the same game, basically. It's not like one's different. With the exception that the video game would have a story mode, which would, obviously give it a little bit of a difference. But it'll still be multiplayer and all that too, online.
Oh, nice. Well, that was also something that caught my eye, was it's multiplayer, which means that kids and myself, for example, could play against each other and just do battle. It was quite an interesting game. I did like the spiders. I thought that the spiders are the main boss, if I'm correct, or the main base, as it were, if I'm correct.
Yeah, the spider cannons act as the base for your or the king character, you could say too, because the game's going to have a lot more units in the future, so you don't always have to use your spider cannon for your king unit or your base unit. It can change because it's actually it's going to be a game that's a Armageddon type story where it's an alien invasion, and they're going to be aliens come and raise the dead and bring monsters and all kinds of fantasy elements will be brought into the game. So, because the idea is to really over time expand it so that you can play the game any way you want, because there'll be so many units to choose from and stuff. But right now it's starting kind of small. It's just basic military units, so that when the invasion happens, you have something to fight the aliens with.
Okay.
What made you decide? What made you decide to make the board game and the video game?
Yeah, I would say in 2019 I started making the board game, and the inspiration it was really the fact that I loved Warhammer, but here in the States it's not quite as popular as in other places of the world unless it's video games maybe or something. So it's hard to find people interested in it, and it takes a lot of work, and a lot of people aren't into it. And but I wanted to kind of get other people to be interested in a game like Warhammer that might be a little bit easier. Like maybe if someone was enjoyed a game like Risk, they might, be able to get into it a little bit easier. Do you guys hear a hissing or something?
Sorry, that's a washing machine.
So that was sort of the inspiration, was to kind of make a game that was a little bit easier than Warhammer, because you can't make a game better than Warhammer, obviously. It's like, that's its own thing. But I wanted, something that's a little bit easier when you want to be able to get a game together easier, not have to put all of the pieces together necessarily and make them yourself, and don't need as much space to play because it's on a board game instead of having to, build your whole area to fight in and all that.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the inspiration that started it. And then I just kept building it and thinking about it, and it just goes from there. So then I built the board game in Photoshop. That if you want to build a board game, that's the best thing to do, is just start learning to use Photoshop, because you're going to have to give them a Photoshop file.
So they can print it out.
And then I'm already a 3D sculptor. I mean, that's how I got into art. And so these are some of the game pieces.
That's the spider cannon.
So that, for some people, that might take them longer to figure out how to do. You'd have to get like a program like Blender or I use ZBrush, but, and you can make. But of course, you could always make something in Photoshop too, and just have it be a 2D thing that you wanted to make your board game with. You don't necessarily have to sculpt pieces.
Yeah.
But so then after making the board game, 2020 happened. I found myself home a lot, like a lot of people, and so that was when I thought I might try learning code. So I looked up online YouTube videos about coding and C# and stuff, and I was a little intimidated at first. It took a lot of coffee and late nights of studying, but I'm not very good at math or anything like that. I didn't think I'd be very good at it, and I was able to figure it out. So if it's something you've ever thought about doing, you consider it. You give it a try.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. I mean, it's commendable that you've actually you taught yourself how to actually program in C#. It's not everyone is capable of that, so it's impressive that you actually managed to do it. And in my opinion, it's definitely something worth looking at for anyone who has that interest in actually wanting to learn how to do that. It's definitely something that they should look into. 100% agree with you there. It gives it gives you more knowledge. Essentially, it helps you grow into a more knowledgeable person when it comes to software development and whatnot. So yeah, it makes sense. I'm quite in agreement with you there. With regards to your characters themselves, though, you did say that you had them, that you're going to have them come out in different colors so that they can actually have different teams and whatnot. Will there be standard gray ones that people can purchase separately that they can paint themselves?
Oh, sure. And I think even if it was one of the colored pieces, you could just primer over it. And
I suppose, yeah, you can.
But yeah, at first it would just be solid colored pieces, so you know which team you're on. Keep it simple like that for most people. People who really want to get into painting the stuff, they can do that. But of course, Warhammer is probably a little bit more fun because you get bigger pieces for one thing. So my pieces are a little bit smaller to make it a little bit more compact and everything. You can play in a smaller space.
No, that's yeah, I agree. It is a little more complex. Thankfully, I've got Kez with me, and the two of us we are planning on doing the whole the whole Warhammer thing at some point as well.
I like painting.
She likes painting.
Yeah, it's
I like
fun
building
to
models.
paint.
So.
Yeah.
So we have the advantage where Warhammer is actually a possibility. The two of us can actually play against each other as well. So there is that. And there's another one I want to play. Is it's part of the Warhammer Universe's Dropship Commander or Drop Fleet Commander, I think it's called. It's where you actually use the ships rather than the Space Marines. And I liked that one. I thought that was quite cool, and I thought definitely something that I would want to get. They're very expensive pieces, though.
Yeah, Warhammer in general.
Warhammer in general, yeah, exactly. Very expensive hobby. I used to always say Magic the Gathering is a very expensive hobby until I saw Warhammer.
Yeah.
I realized that's a hell of a lot more expensive.
Have you read any of the Warhammer books?
Well, not the books on the lore so much, but the main rule book and all of that I've looked at. And, you know, I watch people play it a lot more than I've actually ever played it. Mainly because it's hard, like I said, hard to get into. But now with the internet and everything, you can see so many people playing on YouTube, and you can, you know, kind of watch along and feel like you're playing the game too. So.
No, that is really quite awesome. One thing I do know about the whole Warhammer thing is the rules are. I mean, we thought D&D was complex. Warhammer is a hell of a lot more complex. It's actually insane. So, the rules for your game, how difficult are they to actually understand? Are they going to be difficult, or are they relatively easy?
I think for anyone who's tried to get into Warhammer, it's going to seem easy. I would say it's like somewhere in between Warhammer and Risk. Like Risk is sort of simple. You just, I think in Risk, if I remember correctly, you just roll the dice, and if it's like 4 and up, or it's a hit or something when you're trying to attack. So it's a little bit more complicated than that, but definitely not as complicated as Warhammer. You basically are rolling 1 die for each unit or each, like say you have a unit of tanks, for instance. There'll be 5 tanks in your unit, so that unit is a symbol for 5 tanks. So when you're rolling 5 dice, 1 die for each one of those tanks that you have. So as you lose tanks in your unit, you have less dice that you get to roll too. So it is adjusting based on your health. But and then you also get advantage too. So if you don't hit, it is like a 4-up kind of system, like Warhammer or Risk. But it adjusts based on you know, the armor of the other person, or things like that. You add or subtract onto that, and then you do get advantage when you're the one attacking. But then the person who you attack has a chance to roll back and hit you as well. So it puts some strategy in there into whether you want to attack a unit, especially if it's one that's more powerful or something like that.
Yeah. Now I noticed with the spider cannon that it takes damage every time it fires. Is that something that's unique to that particular that piece?
Well, it doesn't take damage every time you fire, but if you fire it on another spider cannon, you will get hit back for sure.
Okay.
But if you're attacking something that's not in range, it cannot attack you back.
Okay, cool. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, the thing with the spider cannon has a lot of health. You use a D20 as a way to keep track of your health. And at first it'll actually hit with 6 dice every time. But once you get down to 5 or less life, you're getting less dice that you get to use each time, just like a unit has.
Yeah.
So when you're down to low life, it's not quite as useful of a unit as it is in the beginning, because you could lose the game at any time if you attack with it.
It's one of those, you know, you gotta. There, I can see why you were speaking about it off camera at one point. Last time we were speaking about the fact that you enjoy chess. So I sort of see the spider cannon as the king. You know, it's the the one you don't actually want to use to attack with anything because it is supposed to stay alive.
Yeah, sometimes a good strategy can be to hide it away so it can't get attacked. But then it can also, you can go the other way and just hope you're lucky and just keep attacking their king with your cannon and see how it goes.
See, that's what I would do. I just go full on guns a-blazing and hope for the best.
That can work too. So
Yeah, no, she's got a habit of just going in guns a-blazing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In Warcraft, it works well for her because she can strategize her attacks quite well. But in Civilization, it never works for her because she will get her ass handed to her every single time. You don't ever send in all your troops because you'll have no one defending the rest of your cities, So it's something I've had to teach her about that game, is that you've got to strategize very carefully. You've got to make sure you've got defenses up in each city, and there's got to be enough to defend in case, when you start your war with one of the bigger countries, that they don't actually come back and just decide, okay, well, I'm just going to go around and flank you, and then I'm just going to take your cities, and then you're going to have like nothing left. So I've had to show her that.
But that's also because I'm not used to turn-based games, which yours is. I'm
Right.
still I play the normal strategy games where there is no turn-based. I don't mind turn-based games, but it's not my biggest. But I'm getting into the hang of them. I'm getting used to it, learning the ropes slowly but surely. Not to just go and take your turns and strategize with each turn. It's different from the other strategy games out there.
Yeah, it's also it can be a lot harder. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be a lot harder. So and that's sort of what I like about it. It's challenging. We're obviously talking about Whiskey Bravo now. It's I can see it being very challenging. Not impossible, like rules and stuff like that. Just challenging. Like it's like playing chess. Like
Right.
if you're playing against someone more experienced, the chances of you winning are not very good at all. But if you're playing against someone at your level, you know it's an even match. So I can see that it's going to be a very challenging game, but that's exactly what you look for in this kind of a board game. I personally like the way it's been designed. Your pieces though, so each piece in the game has a value. It's got a point to it. They're not just in for being theirs sake. They're not cannon fodder, for example. Could you elaborate on some of the usefulness of each character of each of the units that you've got?
So far in the demo version that you've played, you can actually take over a base with any unit. But in the board game that's coming out and in the final release of the game, you actually will only be able to take over cities with human characters, like infantry units and things like that. But so that's the point of those humans or infantry units is to take over bases. They're weaker, they don't have armor, but then so your best unit for attacking is going to be more of a tank. You're going to want either the heavy tank, which or we have the spud tank, I call it. The spud tanks are like these little tanks. They're powerful, but they're not that heavy duty for taking hits. But then the heavy tank, it can take more damage. So that's the point of those.
Tank.
Yeah.
Now I would think of it as a fast-moving unit. To be honest, it seems like something that can actually move further than the bigger tanks.
It has longer range. The humans or the infantry have a short range of how far they can go. And then they're not in the demo yet, but there's going to be jeeps also. So if you here's like an example of the jeep.
Oh, nice.
So the jeeps, the humans will be able to get into a jeep because right now they can only go like 3 spaces. But if you get in a jeep, you could drive it to one of the bases or something, get out and take over the base.
How many units would you be able to fit into one?
When that unit gets in, you'll just take it off the board, but know that it's in there because you'll have it off to the side.
Okay. Do you fit more than one, or is it just one unit that you can put in the jeep?
Well, one unit, because if you think about it, the unit of infantry is going to be 5
Oh, right.
infantry.
Each unit
So they're going to get
is
into 5 jeeps,
represents
really.
5.
If you're,
Okay, no,
if you're
that makes
thinking about
sense.
it.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's missile launchers, so you have some ranged units in there already, and the spider cannon,
Yeah.
which is your base or king.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and what I've noticed is the missile launchers are obviously good for ranged attacks, but up close to a tank, they're kind of useless. That if a tank sits on
Yeah.
top of it, it can't actually fire at it because it's too close. I've
Mhm.
noticed that. I do like the way you put that together. I think it's quite nifty that you've actually managed to fit them in like that. And each of those has a different disadvantage as well. So, the heavier armored tanks are good at close range, but at a distance they're not so good. And the potatoes are fast, as Kez has now officially dubbed them. But when can people expect the game to be ready to be played? Of each, obviously the board game and the game itself.
Well, the board game's I'm gonna be at a convention in June called Monsterpalooza. It's here in California, where I'm located, in Pasadena, California. So if anyone's in the area, they could go see it there. And I'm going to, in a few months, put out a Kickstarter too. So if people are interested, because if you want to be one of the first ones to own the game, that's what you would want to do, is check out the Kickstarter. So that's going to be for the people who want to be the first to own it. And that'll help us hopefully be able to sell it outside the US too, because we can if we make enough of them and use something like Amazon, we can get it out to everyone.
Yeah.
And then the video game is so far it's due at the end of 2023. The video game obviously is a lot more work than the board game. So we'll see how that goes. That's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. I have to kind of grow my team a little bit. Right now it's just me. So after the Kickstarter, I can probably hire another programmer and an artist to help me get it done faster.
Yeah. And then obviously the bigger the team, the more suggestions you get, and then you can chop and change and add things and make expansions. And I can see this game turning into something quite epic and something that will more than likely, take off quite nicely. So definitely, I wouldn't stop if I were you. I'd just keep hammering on, because it's bound to do something decent, and it's bound to actually make a decent, hit. In the community itself. Were you recently at a convention to show off the game?
No, the plan has been to show it over the past couple of years, but in the area I live, everything's shut down. All the conventions.
Right. Yeah.
So for the past 2 years, every convention I tried to go to got canceled. So
well, it looks like they're coming back there. So you got the advantage there, at least. A little one.
And of course we do need to ask how you came up with the name Whiskey Bravo.
Oh, sure. Well, you've probably heard people use military talk before, where they'll use words like, whiskey, or whiskey stands for W, for instance. So if you're writing in code, Bravo is B. So if you were to say Whiskey Bravo, that could mean like westbound would be like what you're trying to use the code for. So that's where Whiskey Bravo comes from. But all of the characters that are going to be in a story mode are going to have like code names that are based on, that code words. So there'd be stuff like Whiskey Bravo, Sierra Bravo, that sort of thing.
Oh, makes sense. I mean, I love it. It's very creative. It's a very, very good way to actually, show exactly what kind of game it is. It does make sense. I think it's quite cool. With regards to, for example, yourself, what kind of board games other than your own have you actually enjoyed and really enjoyed playing?
Yeah, well, 3 best games I would say would be like Dungeons and Dragons would be like number 1. Number 2, even though I don't really ever have played an actual real game of Warhammer with another person, I've been so into it that I feel like it's one of the greatest games, and it is. And then one that's a lot easier for me to play with people is Magic, because it's a lot easier to get people into Magic.
Yeah,
and that's a great one too. A lot of strategy with the 5
Mm.
different colors, and you can mix and all that. So
yeah,
it's really
yeah.
cool.
Agreed.
And that's a game too where I play the video game version and the actual card game all the time interchangeably, and that's sort of one of the inspirations in a way too. Is like, here's a game I play both ways all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe they would like to play my game that way.
Yeah, it's inspired, really. It's a great way to look at it. Actually, is, I mean, no one idea ever comes from just nothing. It's normally either from a necessity or from seeing something that could actually be improved upon. And essentially, that's what you've just done. You've basically done it yourself with your own game, and you're improving upon the idea of actually having the game on both Steam and as a board game. So it does make sense. I mean, it's very well thought out, and as I said, yeah, inspired. It's very inspired. When it comes down to video games, tell us what video games, and you cannot name your own.
Well, there's all the ones that inspired it, obviously, like Advance Wars, Fire Emblem. Those ones are the biggest influences for sure. But I think as people see my game grow, they'll see less of a resemblance to those games. But you definitely see it right away when you look at those games. But yeah, favorite one. I mean, even besides strategy games, for instance, I love Street Fighter series on video games.
Street Fighter's cool though.
Yeah, it's just fun. But yeah, strategy games. I'll play even a Warhammer video game, or of course, World of Warcraft. I was really into World of Warcraft for a long time. I had a level 75 or something warlock, and a mage and all kinds of. I was into it for a while. Maybe that was a not good that I was into it for that time, because I didn't do much else. But yeah, it was fun. I have memories that seem so real of playing with my friends. So.
Oh, that's important though.
And when you play D&D, what's your favorite character to play?
Well, with D&D, I think warlocks are cool. Mages are cool, and then but they don't call them mages, right? But then I think paladins are cool. They're fun.
Well, it depends. In D&D, you can consider them mages. It just depends on the kind of mage, because you've got your standard mages, which is just basically a magic practicer. He can practice pretty much everything. He doesn't focus on one particular school of magic, which makes him pretty much, even-handed when it comes to battle. You've got other ones like wild mages that their magic will pop off different spells that they're not supposed to. If you botch, for example, a roll, or if you roll too low, then you'll shoot off the wrong spell and cause more harm than good.
Or my kind,
a wild
which is
mage.
the necromancers.
You've got necromancers as well. Yeah, those are also a thing. And then you've got like ones that are particularly focused, like your fire mages, your ice mages. Each one has a different focus as well. So mages they're very interesting in D&D. They're actually very interesting. This is coming from someone who played D&D many years ago, and I'm talking about I think this is like 3rd edition, 4th edition. So I mean, I'm old. My first real D&D game on the computer was Baldur's Gate, so that's how.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah,
it is an epic game.
And there's a new one coming up.
Are you good or are you chaotic? What is it, chaotic or neutral?
Where do you align?
Where do you fall on this scale?
Well, like for instance, if I'm a paladin, I like to have come from a dark kind of character who's become good. So
yeah, so you go chaotic good more than likely. That would make the most sense, because it's someone who's still got that chaotic side on them, but they've gone to the good side, which is the reason why they're a paladin. That makes sense. That's actually a very good way to look at it. Me personally, it depends on the character I'm playing. If I'm a ranger, I'm normally neutral or lawful neutral, depending on what it is, because it's obviously it's a ranger and they're generally good guys. And then if I'm playing a wizard, I like to go full chaotic evil. Because it's the kind of person I am.
Right, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. Just cause chaos. I love it. Especially playing that game. Just chaos is the best. What about you, Andrew?
I'm bad all the way. I'm always chaotic evil.
It's really funny she says that. She's playing Mass Effect at the moment and she's just gone Paragon. It's like she's not Renegade at all. She's just Paragon. I'm like, that's like what you're saying is counteractive to what you're doing.
But that's a different game. I'm always like more on the bad side with Mass Effect than I am the good. And this time I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna be good. I killed one person, but that's because I didn't like her. So it's fine. When the credits rolled and she was dead, I'm like, yay! Everyone that I wanted to survive survived. But I'm usually like more on the renegade side, and this time I played good. I wanted to see what it's like, and it's not bad.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Each decision leads up to Mass Effect. I mean, granted, the end of Mass Effect 3 was not the greatest ending, because your decisions made no difference.
Yeah, it's more fun when it makes a difference.
Exactly. So that was a bit disappointing. They did fix it after the update, after they patched it and all that stuff. But the first time it was just like it ended so horribly. I was just like, okay, so none of my decisions made any difference. Everything that I did throughout the entire game culminated in the exact same ending. I was unimpressed. I was unimpressed with that. But it's a great game. Don't get me wrong. Mass Effect is a very fun game. I've actually always enjoyed it.
Have you played them?
I've played them. I'm not all the way through though, but my friends are really into them. Yeah.
Yeah, Andromeda's alright. The gameplay is unbelievable for Andromeda. The story is a little bit it's a bit lacking. I'm not a huge fan of the story. I think it's very boring. It's not Mass Effect. It doesn't have the same punch that Mass Effect does. But hopefully the new one that they bring out is actually going to be something worth our time. So yeah, we can only hope. Hey, man.
And then your game will stand up next to it, and they'll say, "Hey, this is what we want from Whiskey Bravo."
Exactly. That's how I see it.
That sounds stressful, actually, to compete with.
No, don't. How we see it, we sat down with a couple of our friends for a podcast recently, and we were talking about it. We a lot of us prefer to actually play indie games because AAA titles they're just not, if that makes any sense. You know,
they're not what AAA titles used to be back in the day.
Right.
It's just become a money-making thing now. It's not about the players and the story. It's more about how quickly we can get to the next game.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example is, well, any EA game. But I mean, it's just one of them. I mean, it's like Ubisoft at the moment is going through a bit of trouble because their games are just not doing well anymore because they keep churning out the same thing, and people are getting sick of it. They don't want to buy games like that. And as we were discussing yesterday, we prefer to play indie games. So whenever we see an indie developer on Steam or something like that, we're always sharing information between each other and saying, hey, you know, have a look at this game, have a look at that game. So suffice it to say, when your game is ready and out, we will be sharing it with our friends as well, just so that they know that it's available. Because most of our friends and most of the community that we're in prefer indie titles anyway. So if it's a good game, people will play it. You know, and that is the absolute truth. If it's a good game, people will play it, and for us, that is the most important thing. As long as as long as we enjoy it and it actually brings a bit of fun to the table, we're happy. So it's good news for you.
Yeah.
So don't put too much stress on your shoulders about being having a whole you know, I have to live up to a AAA title. You really don't.
Yeah.
You just have to do your thing.
Right.
Anything else from your side? What do you think, Angela? You got words. Come on, you know you got words.
Indie games rule.
Okay. I wasn't expecting
Indie games
that. But yeah, so we're going to go on to some of the sillier things, some of the fun questions that we'd like to ask. What's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? I'm really more of a Marvel guy. That's what I like, is the Marvel universe. But I'll give it to Batman for the DC fans out there, because for me, when I watch any of the DC stuff, it's really just in relation to Batman. He's like the center of that universe, and every other one's just a backup character, whether it's Superman or not.
I meant to ask last time, which Batman though?
Oh, which Batman? That's a really good.
That's actually a damn good question. Wow.
I would say Frank Miller's Batman is my favorite Batman.
Wow.
So
If
you read the Dark Knight Returns, with Superman as a villain, see, that was cool to see. That's my favorite Batman. But I love even the old Bob Kane Batmans. Those old ones are pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I like the playful ones. They were still dark. I did like them though, because as dark as they were, they still had that slight bit of humor to it, just to give you a bit of a laugh. Like, Kez doesn't understand why I like the old Batman movies. I grew up on these Batman movies, like the ones with what's the actor's name?
Are you talking like Adam West old, or
no, later than that.
Later.
I'm not that old.
Well, as a little kid, I watched those Adam West ones.
Yeah, no, we never had them in South Africa, so I never got a chance to see the Adam West ones. But the first Batman I actually saw, Michael Keaton, that's it, was the Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah, he was a good Batman.
He was a damn good Batman. I really enjoyed him as Batman. He had a very good demeanor about him when it came to playing Batman. So that was by far my favorite Batman when I started as a kid, and that's what got me into Batman and reading the comics and all of that stuff. So I used to be a Marvel fan too. But I like the older stuff. Any of the new stuff from any of the comic companies now, it's dull and it's boring and it's unreadable for me, because it's not what I see as a superhero comic, for example, or even just a hero comic. Because Batman is a hero. He's not a superhero. He's just a hero. And for me, that was the biggest thing, was that he was a normal man that did extraordinary things. And to me, that was the most ultimate thing, was that he was just a normal man doing extraordinary things. Basically saying that anyone can basically do it if they just set their mind to it. So I like that.
Like you with your game.
Like you with your game, exactly. See, it all goes round in circles, and it all comes back to being determined. But that's Batman. I agree with you 100%. Batman is definitely, he is the center of the DC universe. I still believe that DC was created because of Batman, because DC is Detective Comics, So Detective Comics, the best detective in the world is Batman. There you go.
Right.
Marvel side, I'd say I like the X-Men, but the old X-Men.
I grew up reading X-Men, all of the Chris Claremont written X-Men comics.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that the yellow spandex X-Men people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Angel. Yes, it's those X-Men. Those were the original.
funny TV show song that gets stuck in my head sometimes for
Right.
random.
I used to love it.
It just gets stuck in my head. Like talking about it now, it's playing in my head.
It's pretty epic, yeah.
It is. It's by far one of the best opening songs in the world. I love it. But that was my X-Men thing, or my Marvel thing is definitely X-Men. Spider-Man, somewhat. I did like Spider-Man. I thought it was very clever of Stan Lee to actually come up with the idea of a dude getting bitten by a radioactive spider and becoming super powered like that. That was very clever of him. And I actually always loved Stan Lee's writing. I thought that he had some very clever ideas. So for me, Stan Lee was definitely an added bonus.
Next question. Next question.
Okay. Any awesome books that you've read recently?
Well, I would say The Hobbit's my favorite book, for sure. It's an easy one to reread anytime you feel like you just want to be brought back to that world or whatever. It doesn't take as long as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is great, but it's way more of a commitment. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's also, as you said, it's an easier read. I think Tolkien used the language. As far as I remember, he wrote the book. He used the language differently because he wrote the book for his kids. And he was trying to get them, into his whole universe. So he wrote The Hobbit for that reason. I may be completely wrong. I don't go by me. I'm not a Tolkien expert, but I believe that's why he wrote The Hobbit as it pertains to the whole story, and that's why it's so much of an easier read. But yes, I agree. The Hobbit is definitely one of those reads that everyone has to do. They have to at least read the Hobbit once.
Especially if you like Dungeons and Dragons, because it's sort of, the first.
He's the father of
book that
D&D,
really,
basically. Yeah. He created our world of D&D and all that stuff. So if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have D&D. Well, we probably would, but it wouldn't be the same.
I have a really weird question, but it pops into my head. I don't know why. If you were stranded on an island, would you want to be stranded with books, board games, or video games?
So I probably wouldn't have electricity, though, right? It's like, well, unless it was a handheld game,
Maybe
it wouldn't last
there
very
was.
long. And then if I'm by myself, you can't really play a board game. so maybe I'll go with books, yeah.
Logic. You just got logic.
Told you, it's a really weird question.
You just got logic. That was a good question, but it was a damn good answer.
It was a good question.
I love the answer though. It was brilliant. I thought that was there's not going to be electricity, so video games is out of the table.
Well, if I'm stranded with one other person, then the board games would be fun, because then they give you something
Hey,
to do.
you never know. Maybe there's an island native there somewhere hiding around. You never know what's on the island waiting for you.
That's true.
You can always play board games with a tiger,
Yeah.
or a lion. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just going through my head here. I can't remember. I've forgotten those quickfire questions, Angel. I don't do them.
Favorite supervillain?
Yes.
I'll say the Joker to go with Batman.
Which one?
Which one? I would go with the Joker from the first Joker ever, like the first appearance of the Joker, where he actually leaves his Joker card. It's like an old Bob Kane one. Yeah, that was cool. And
that was quite awesome. Agreed, 100%. That was quite awesome. That's what I like about the Dark Knight series. It actually goes back to the Bob Kane days, and that is quite cool, because it's funny enough, it's Kez's favorite Batman as well. It is back then. I've got to try and find her some way to actually read the Bob Kane comics, so she can see why I like Batman so much. There was also the one. One of my favorite Batmans, I have to admit, one of the favorite comics that I ever read was the one where it was the first appearance of Scarecrow. And he tortured Robin. I thought that was it was really cool the way he did that. The way they actually put that the story together was very dark. But wow, when I read it, I was just like, and they let us read this as kids. Why? It is so dark. But yeah, definitely that was one of my favorites. Was the first appearance of Scarecrow. I thought that was quite cool. That was one of my enjoyable ones. Comic books, we've gone through all that. Anything?
If you have any advice or guidance or tips for
good one,
anyone out there who wants to make a board game or a video game, anything, even if it's just a silly little, just go do it, what would you say to someone who wants to get into it?
Just go do it is a really good one, actually. But no, I'll say more than that, though. Try to make what's called a game design document. So you're basically just writing down what the game is and describing everything that the game's going to be and how the rules work. And don't worry about all the artwork and all that at first. You just work on the game, And then then after that, just pick one thing at a time to learn to do. So if you can't do the artwork, find somebody who can, and have them help you. But if you are artistic, try to get Photoshop. You could get a 1 month for free, I think. So that gives you a month to finish what you what you want to finish. But yeah, you can design a board or something so you can start play testing it. And you don't even really have to have anything professionally done. You can print on paper and start playing it with friends and stuff. And then for video games, I would say just download Unity, the program, or Unity. It's free, and you can make video games with it. And I would say download it before learning any code, because it already comes with things that you can start making and building without knowing any code.
Yeah, and
there's tutorials and everything. And for it to be free and have free tutorials, that's pretty amazing. And you can find anything you want to learn on YouTube. So that's good advice to tell people too. It's not like before where you had to go to a special training school somewhere or something like that. Like, you can Google anything and find the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just have to take one piece at a time and just keep doing it. And because I mean, when I started my game, it was just an idea, and over these years it's built up, so it looks like this amazing thing I did, but it took time. You know, in 2019 to now I've been doing it, so it's quite a while.
Yeah, no, exactly. That is very sound advice, and it's good advice for anyone to take. I agree though. The whole, you know, look at it from you know, starting at the very beginning and have your game, you know, your layout, what you want to have done with the game first before you do anything. Most people don't do that. Most people don't even think about that, and that is probably one of the most important things. It's something that we learned at that Microsoft Game Jam that we actually did a long time ago with Kez's dad. We actually went to a Microsoft Game Jam, and they actually gave you, you know, you'd go and you'd work on a game, you'd design your own little game, and then they'd also give you advice on what you should do. You know, you should probably focus on this rather than focus on that. And all the other teams would jump in and give other people advice from different sides and stuff like that. And it was really quite cool because it shows, you know, the community is willing to help, you know, and some of the people in the community are willing to help. So I thought that was quite cool. You know, the Microsoft were actually willing to hold game jams like that. But yeah, the same thing. You know, they all said the same thing. Start from the very beginning and have some sort of a design. Or work through the design when you know about or you have the rules set up and all that stuff first, because you can't have a game without rules. You know, the game won't work if it doesn't have rules. So, 100% agree with you there. That's very sound advice from my standpoint, from your standpoint. All of that together. What do you think? Agreed. Yes, we both agree. I know that I'm looking away, and it looks like I'm looking away from the screen, but I'm actually looking at Kez. Because she's there. She's that side.
A lot closer than we thought.
Yeah, she's right next to me. So I just turned to look at her, but when I turn to look at her, it looks like I'm looking away. But yeah, anyway, tell our guests where they can find you, and where they'll be able to find the game.
Well, I'm on Twitter all the time, so if someone even wants to, you know, follow me and then send me a message, you know, I'm there. So I'm on Twitter and Vimanaware. It's the name of my Twitter account. And you can go to vimanaware.com. So that's VIMA, I think. Yeah. No, I can't even think how you spell it.
No, fine. It'll be in the description. VIMAWARE. Yeah, there you go. .com, and you can look for Whiskey Bravo on Steam if you go to Steam, and please wishlist it because that helps a lot. In fact, that if you want to help me, that's probably the thing that would help the most, is just go there and wishlist the game. Yeah, definitely. Well, as I've said, I've already got the game wishlisted. It is sitting in my wishlist right now.
Too.
So we're ready for it when it comes out. Anywhere else, or are those the best places to look for you at the moment?
Those are the best places, and if you want to see me in person, you can go to Monsterpalooza if you're in my area. You can chat and talk to me in person, see the board game, ask questions.
Cool, and that's Pasadena, right?
Pasadena.
Go do it. Go do it.
Yeah, so for our American viewers, that's for you. I would say 901 should go through, but he's all the way in Tennessee, so I think that might be a bit difficult for you. So he won't be able to come through. But anyone else who's in the States, any one of our viewers who are in the States, go have a look. Go and have a look. I mean, this game looks epic. I'm definitely going to be getting the board game version of it too. So there's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt that I'll be getting it. But yeah, Kavi, thank you so much for coming on. It has been an unbelievable time. We are going to save this video this time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
That's more than a pleasure.
Thank you for agreeing to come back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying come back because
because
you came back.
Out, yeah.
I'll come back again too if you
absolutely,
want me back. So,
absolutely. When the game is on sale and the board game is ready to go and we've purchased a copy of it ourselves, I mean, well, not a copy, but purchased the game ourselves, we'll definitely have you back on after we've played it a few times so that we can show off what we've done and our skills as we've grown with the game. And also we can then find out how you guys are doing with the game as it's growing from your side. So we'll definitely be happy to have you back on when the time comes and when the
or even sooner if you
if
you ever feel like just jumping on again, you've got our email, just message us. And you even, I think you're on Twitter as well, just message us anywhere and say, hey, I want to be on another episode, and we'll go.
Yeah, we're pretty much everywhere all the time.
Okay.
But Kavi, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful. For you guys out there, you know where to go. We put all the descriptions and the link down below, so you guys can have a look at it and see where to find the game and all that stuff. That's definitely something that you want to do. Remember, guys, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. I know you can't see my thumb because the screen's so small. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down and tell us why, because it's always good to get criticism, and we don't mind the criticism. We like it. And also, if you really, 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 really like us, you can hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for more notifications if it works for you. Sometimes it doesn't, so we don't know anymore. But if it does, just come through and give us a comment. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, remember,
Kiki.
keep it kiki.
Bye, everyone.